Hello, hello, and hello. It's Matt and Gabe. ESC United, your favorite Eurovision channel is usually the thing, but for today, it's Junior Eurovision. And it's over. We have a winner of the Eurovision Song Contest 2022. And congratulations, too. If you haven't watched the show yet, pause it and watch it now, and then come back if you watch it on replay. It's France. Congratulations. I know there were a lot of surprised people there. Not me, but we have so much to talk about, of course, more than just the winner. And but just in general, lots of stuff going on. Gabe, first, before we even go into the details, just overall, what did you think about the show? Not even the results, just like the whole, whatever Armenia put forward.
So I think, and I'm really glad because I was able to say this last year and I feel able to say it again this year. In terms of the quality of the songs, this is the best it's been. It's the strongest, I think, Junior Eurovision ever, perfectly fitting for a 20th anniversary. I think Armenia, threw a great party. The show was great. Maybe next time don't host the opening ceremony outside in freezing cold temperatures and make all your acts ill. But that's partly the EBU's fault for putting it in December. So great job, Armenia. Great job, all the participants. And I liked almost all of the songs, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that in a moment. Yes, I want to, of course, say hi to everyone in the chat. I see a lot of thought. And I saw before we get started, before we always go live, we have our 3-minute intro. And Gabe, you were rocking to the song that we're playing, Belgium 2009.
Oh, God, you could see that?
Yes, of course. I don't see in this room, I see you dancing in the back. I can see the camera on the side. You just cannot see me. So I saw you going like this.
Oh my God. Oh, I've got bright red. I love that song. It's my favorite Junior Eurovision song of all time. I know all the words.
It's my favorite.
God, I can't believe you saw that. I'm never going to live that down.
And I enjoyed it.
I mean, you saw me drunk and cheering, to be fair. So.
Anyways, but we're here not to talk about 2009. We're here to talk about 2022. And before we even go, as we all know, Gabe is our UK representative, I guess, for the lack of a better word. And do you want to share some really cool news about the UK tonight?
Well, that is that the UK won the televote at a Eurovision competition. We won the televote. How has that happened? We did it.
I was shocked, not in a bad way, in a good way, shocked that this actually won because was a lot of competition out there. So we got to talk about it. But yeah, I didn't expect, I thought UK has a good chance being in the top 5 of the televote, I was thinking, right? Because it just has that sound. It was contemporary. It was good. She performed it well. But actually winning it when there were like these other favorites, like of Georgia and Armenia that were thrown out there, actually they passed. So now, of course, there will be that caveat that she, just like Serbia, who did not perform live, was sick and she didn't sing as much. But that's not her fault, obviously, because as you pointed out, they had this event outside and they all got sick. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think, essentially, the opening ceremony. I mean, this is, I will caveat this by saying this is also probably a conspiracy theory, but I think in general, like, kids get sick all the time, especially in winter. Like, I'm sure we all remember, like, when we were kids, like, you get colds all the time. It's just natural. For that reason, you really can't put this contest this late in the year. Like, early November, mid-November, fine. But December, this late, is too late. As for the UK, I think the UK would have done even better if Freya had been able to, sing to her fullest. But I think I'm absolutely massive well done, and thank you. I can't believe I'm saying this about a UK delegation. The delegation absolutely smashed it because and you could tell from the performance just how difficult it must have been to do. Freya was clearly really unwell, and she clearly struggled all week, and they managed to transform the song in a way that she could sing it and get through it, and it sounded good. Obviously, I think if she'd been well, it would have done better. She could have had the big notes. She would have been able to sing the pre-chorus herself. But I just want to say, a massive well done to the UK delegation for safeguarding her welfare as
Yes.
well
Yeah.
as they have done this week. I think it's a really, really good job.
General, they should be doing that, but especially for children, of course. So yeah, no, I am too. And now we can. I mean, we're all excited about Sam Ryder's really good result at Eurovision, but there's always probably even in your back of your mind the thought, was it a fluke or is it a trend, right? You feel a little more confident. Maybe the BBC and delegations have a little bit more. The light bulb went off in their head. You think that's kind of where we are?
I feel like we're in a really good place now. We've sort of understood like what it is we need to do, seemingly, or at least we have enough of an understanding that now we can produce good results. It's now just about building up that. I think a lot of it is about institutional knowledge, because what a fluke result is all well and good.
Yeah.
But you need to build up that pool of people. I mean, the Swedish, the best example of this. You need to build up that pool of people who understand what it is to do well in Eurovision. And as you build that pool of people up, it becomes easier to do.
Yeah.
So this is another great thing, and it needs to keep going.
Yeah. People in the chat, if you have questions, of course, we'll try to pick them up as much as possible. Stay on topic, of course. And you'll need to make sure to put at ESC United in the chat so we know you're talking to us so we can pick them out. And of course, if you want to support us, you can always do a super chat. But as long as you post at ESC United, we'll go from there. Should we go in running order or in outcome? Okay, what do you think makes more sense?
Let's go outcome, bottom to top.
Okay, bottom to top. I like that idea. Okay, the Wikipedia has not been completely updated yet. Let me see here. Who came? Oh, no, it has now. I stand corrected. So, unfortunately, the last place this time around was Malta with Diamonds in the Sky. So, I think Malta from the get-go was probably the underdog. I talked about that on Twitter, and I think that is just what happened here. I personally don't think it was a bad song at all. It actually was quite pleasant, and I love the 80s retro vibe. I just think that it didn't have the impact. You need to have some kind of I could see this one being like in 7th, 8th place with a lot of people, but that is just not enough. And I think that is just what it was. There were a lot of visually stunning performances, vocally impressive ones, and Malta just kind of maybe blended in too much for it to really stand out. And it was fairly early in the running order. It didn't really leave a mark. And I mean, it didn't do too hot in the juries either. So it is unfortunate, but I can say I'm totally shocked to see them at the bottom. How about you, Gabe?
So I'm in a similar kind of position. I enjoyed it. I think it just got lost a little bit. It's one of those songs that you see them every year where they're nice, but they are kind of aiming at a pool of voters where there's other stuff which is really strong, which just eats them up.
Mm-hmm.
And having to vote for 3 countries rather than 1 obviously minimizes that impact. And I think we saw that with the spread of the televotes being actually really, a really thin wedge, between the very top and the very bottom. But yeah, it just got eaten up, I'm afraid. And that happens sometimes. It was a good performance. They should be proud of it. But someone has to end up down there. They all did well. They were all good. Someone had to be last.
Exactly. And we're jumping right into World Sasuri's question, actually, because it leads us to the second to last place, 15th place, Kazakhstan. They are asking, I should assume, I don't know. What do you think was the reason why Kazakhstan was so low with the jury points? As there was talk about the contest that would possibly top the jury vote. Actually, I'll go first on this one. I actually tweeted back, I could see this one being a top 5 jury vote if the performance was good in the jury show. I didn't see it. He was had some less than ideal notes tonight during the live show, but if he would have performed more flawless in the jury show, I could see this one actually having all the appeal, because often these kind of songs, especially from Kazakhstan, they tend to be overlooked and then they do really well at the contest. But this time around, for the first time, actually, it just didn't come together, and the televote certainly did not help Kazakhstan either, and just they did escape last place. So I was a bit surprised. I don't know what I could only think of that maybe he was vocally as a little shaky there as well, I think, but it still was impressive. I mean, he has great vocals, but I think the song just did not click. That would be my thinking. Gabe?
Yeah, it's a shame because it's a decent song, and he's a good singer, but I think this one, and you've seen with the rehearsal clips that have come out during the week as well. This one has just never really gotten off the ground. The vocals have never just quite, just not quite there. And as a result, it just, I think it gets forgotten a bit. I think it was a bit pitchy, unfortunately. Like I said, I don't want to be overly critical. But unfortunately, this time around, it just, they're a lot. They've had several really successful years. They were, your luck's got to run out at some point. This year, it just didn't happen for them. It's happened to every country at some point, but this year, they were the unfortunate ones.
And it should not be a discouraging thing because we have seen Kazakhstan, how close they've come to winning and being at the top all the time. And every country will have a sour year. Even Sweden had bad years at adult versions. So don't think that it happens everywhere. So I know it's unfortunate, but once again, somebody has to fill those spots, right? Then in 14th place is North Macedonia. And by the way, people who have just joined the chat, we're going from bottom to top. We're currently in 14th place. If you have any questions about the ones that we've talked about before, which are Kazakhstan, Malta, and now North Macedonia, in the chat at ESC United. Your thoughts on the North Macedonian outcome, the country that we won't see in Liverpool? Gabe?
So I wasn't too surprised about this one. I mean, it's the only group. Personally, I don't think I'm not a big fan of children rapping. I don't think it sounds weird. But no, I think it's about right. We're sort of, we're into the sort of dense mid-table now, and it was a fun song. But again, you're still talking about the ones where they didn't really stand out. They didn't really make the same impression. Like I struggle to remember it as much as compared to the ones which are at the top of the leaderboard and which had perhaps a little more identity. I think this one, again, I think it's actually a similar case to Kazakhstan. For me, it just didn't quite click. It didn't quite come together, unfortunately.
It's very interesting because I'm not sure if you knew, but North Macedonia pre-contest, my number one. For me, it clicked so much. It was the happiest, catchiest tune. I was cleaning the house, and I don't necessarily listen to a whole lot of Junior, but that song was, I have my life ahead of. So I just kept singing, and just this joyfulness just really captivated me. And I loved it to pieces. I knew it would be a long shot for them to do well, and I knew that my number one would be controversial, but I was hoping that it would come together live. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I do think that the energy and the joy that the song needed was not quite there. I agree also with you. Children rapping usually doesn't work for me either. It worked for me in this song for some reason because it was just a minor part. But overall, the song, I was very disappointed it flopped. But I saw it coming now, knowing that it just was not the song that a lot of people were clicking with. And after seeing the live performance, there was that spark missing, I think. So I was really bummed out by that as well. But that's just how it goes. My favorites hardly ever win. But more to come on that. 13th place for Serbia, Katarina, and that one is especially sad because she also got sick. The last minute, we got an announcement by the BBC, by the EBU. I mean, BBC's everywhere. The EBU saying that she would not be performing live. So what we saw today was a performance from the second dress rehearsal last night, aka the jury show. So, which is not that uncommon. I mean, we've seen it with Iceland in 21, although that was actually a standard rehearsal, not even the jury show. But that's why they have that in place. So just in case you're wondering, I don't think necessarily that helped or hurt its chance because, it's just what it is. I personally was devastated to see Serbia not do better because it is, I call it Balkan ballad adjacent. Maybe it is a Balkan ballad. I just love that kind of music. And one of my favorite instruments. I mean, I like any kind of like horns anyway. So the trombone is just an underappreciated instrument. I thought it was just flipping awesome. So I am bummed out it didn't do better. I'm not completely shocked because it is, I wouldn't say adulty, but it's not the kind of song that I would see a lot of children gravitate towards. So yeah, that's something. But so 13th place, I'm bummed out. I was hoping for more, but what do you think, Gabe?
I really liked the staging. It was one of my favorite stagings. I thought it felt like it was a very sweet, intimate performance, and it was, it was really captivating. I'm obviously gutted she wasn't able to do it live, but it's no surprise she did well with the juries, because if that was the jury performance, I fully understand why it did so well with them, and it got some. It was, really at the start when it was started bumping
I
up.
thought, yeah.
I was like,
I was like,
okay,
oh my
this is going
God.
on, and then it kind of, faded as
Mhm.
time goes on. No, I think it was really good. I think it deserved better. And like I say, it's just the way it was staged was absolutely exceptional. One of my favorite stagings of the night.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. And Yeye is asking, do you think there were any songs that were too adult? I kind of what I mentioned before. And we'll go into more detail on that as well, because we have still a few songs to talk about. And this comes to just like any contest or music and preferences, it's evolving. Junior is evolving. I'm more, when it comes to junior, more of a traditionalist. I don't necessarily gravitate towards songs that are too adulty. And I do like the joy and the happiness. It's like the childlike vibes of Junior Eurovision when the songs are right. So I'm gravitating towards that one. I also understand that a lot of the kids gravitate towards what you would expect to hear in the charts for the most part. So I guess it's just natural. I wish almost, like, why don't grow up too fast, but that's just my personal preference. Yeah, I'm not 16. So, or even younger. So yeah, you can make a case. We can talk about that a little bit more. Gabe, do you feel the same way? I mean, I know
So,
UK was a very adulty song, even though
so,
there's some debate on that as well.
so for me, I think that ultimately the most important thing is that the performers are singing the kinds of things they want to say. And I think the contest has shifted over time. Like, if you look back to the time when songs like Buzz were winning, by the way, amazing that they brought them back. I was so happy because I love that song. But anyway, like the contest has clearly shifted a few years since then. And I think we are in a quite different place. The most important thing is that the performers themselves enjoy what they're singing. And if what they enjoy singing is something, style of music that we consider, more, adulty or whatever, then, I don't think that, then fair enough. It's not like, and it's not like the content of the songs is adult, the lyrics and so on. I think there was nothing that I heard and thought, that's a bit, no. So to be honest, I think that's the most important thing. And if you look at kids anyway, kids listen to a lot of the same music that adults do. I mean, I think if you walk into, for example, if you walk into most high schools and and ask people what they're listening to the most of, a lot of people might say, for example, Olivia Rodrigo. If you look at my Spotify Wrapped, you know who you'll see a lot of? Olivia Rodrigo. So I think the same applies. That kids don't necessarily have this. There's not like there's this barrier in culture where they're listening to, oh, this is made for kids. In fact, in some ways, I mean, when I was young, that kind of turned me off from stuff. If I knew it was something being made for kids, it felt patronizing.
Oh, really? It's
Yeah.
interesting. Maybe it's because the way I grew up, because I was raised in a very religious household, so we didn't listen to any music. And even then, when they kind of snuck in music, it was not contemporary. It was like, if any German listeners are in here, my family, my parents listened to Schlager music. And so I had zero exposure to anything modern until I was like 13, 14, So I had to like a lot of, catching up to do on that one. So that's why I'm always gravitating towards probably the more childlike music. But yeah, it's just very interesting. So let's move on here. The song that came in 12th place is Albania, Caitlin, which to me is a surprise. Actually, pleasant surprise, I mean, because I thought that Albania could be a potential last place, not because it's a bad song or deserves to come in, but it just feels as the style, the popularity of this song, and just I just felt as this could potentially be completely overlooked unless it's going to get rescued by the juries a little bit. So even though it may not be a mind-blowing result, a good result, I think it's better than I anticipated. And the fact that she I don't know how old she is, she wrote that song herself. It's just incredibly inspiring. I couldn't have done anything near that. I barely could play the recorder at that point myself, you know. So it is what it is. I think the song had some flaws. Not the song. I felt always the song, the composition, the track was very cheap, very demo-like. That song deserved a proper orchestration, strings, whatever it may be, and it just felt like almost like a karaoke track that was just, you know, you get on YouTube or something like that. So that was probably my biggest issue with the song, but she sang it well, and I guess some people did like it. So I'm happy that Albania did a little better than a lot of people thought. How about you, Gabe?
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything you said. I think the production could be better. I think, again, performed well. There was a weird bit of the song where nothing was really happening for like 15 seconds. There was no singing, and there was no like special effects or anything. And it was just kind of a wide panning shot, and it's like we're all sort of like, so what are we waiting?
Like somebody playing the keyboard, like this. I know what you're talking about. That part, yeah, it seems very awkward at that moment. Yeah. So, Larindius, and this is kind of more a general question: up-tempo songs killed each other, or too much jury support to France from jury? We'll get to France in just a moment. Well, in a few minutes. In terms of, do you think that the up-tempo songs killed each other because we had Spain really high, we had France pretty high, we had the UK pretty high? You think they all cancel each other out, so there was not like a runaway winner?
Yeah, I think to a degree, and also I think people who whose music taste is up-tempo songs will have voted for 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of spreads the total televoting pot out. And you know, I think if there was only one song like that, it would have won the televote by a mile. As it happens, you know, Our Freya, you know, God bless Britain, all that stuff. You know, won it by way thin margin, and I think a lot of those votes will have gone elsewhere. At the same time, I think we'll get onto songs like Ireland in a minute, but it did create opportunities for other countries to pick up some of that slack. So I think it's right to a degree that they did eat each other a bit, but not to the extent that one of them still won.
Yeah. And to be fair, again, we're going to talk about France just a moment. France did really, really well in the televote as well, because they got like in the high 70s, I think. So it's not just like, and the juries, it was not the big of a difference. So I don't think that the juries were the ones, because there was some disagreements on some of the favorites, which surprised me. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's wrap up the non-top 10. In 11th place is Italy, blah, blah, blah.
No to bullism.
What?
Did you not see on the staging on the back? Clearly, someone had done a mistranslation. It was meant to say no bullying.
Yeah.
And it said no bullism.
Oh, no, I didn't see that. I missed that. Because I was like multitasking. No bullism? I'm like,
no bullism. Can we get?
I know that English is your first language, so
chat?
I didn't want to be the one explaining that to you.
Well, I feel fine. I feel fine laughing at that, because she won't have done the staging herself. Some production intern somewhere at Rye has done that. I don't know, but bullism. So I'm going to presume that they meant no bullying. And not like no bulimia, which is the only realistic option.
Yeah. Let's go with bullying.
Yeah, that would be an extremely odd and quite bleak reference. So I'm going to assume it was no to bullying. But I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I think you talked about the fun songs. This is one of them for me. One slightly odd thing I did notice is that often when the shot was from the front and she was meant to be looking into the camera, she would be looking down or away from it. Which I guess sort of portrays, it's one of these reminders, like these, ultimately these are kids, they're not seasoned performers, and you do sort of see like the little rough around the edges stuff. But then it's always great when they come back years later Especially, I love it when these, when they come back and participate in the adult contest 5, 6, 7 years later, or whatever, and you can see, how their voice has matured and all the rest.
Stage
I think
presence.
that,
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it will be. Some of them will probably return. So Italy was very interesting. It seems to be expectedly, be a polarizing entry. Because it got like a bunch of 0 pointers from the juries, and then 2 random 12 pointers, and then very little in between. So the juries either loved it or hated it. And in the televote, it didn't like go super crazy. It was also just somewhere in the middle. So it seems as people either loved it or they didn't. So but yeah, 11th place. Let me see here. They got 95 points. Oh, they were tied with the 10th place, but I guess they scored lower in the televote, I guess, and that's why they lost the tiebreaker. So it's like an honorary top 10 result, I guess, for Italy. Speaking of then, the country that beat them out with the same score, 95 points, is Poland. To the Moon. Lots of people like that song. Was second in the running order. Gabe, what are your thoughts? You thought that's like deserving is subjective, of course. That's where you kind of see it happening, or did you think like it would be higher up? A lot of people seem to really like that song.
So I think it's about right, just because of the strength of the field. It was part of this weird phase at the start of the show tonight where there was just a lot of like space stuff. Like it was all everything was very, if we talked about Malta, it kind of had this vibe. Poland had this vibe. There was another song that had this vibe. It's gone out of my head. There was just it felt quite. There was a lot of kind of stuff. It was like we've gone very space, sort of future-y kind of aesthetic, which this was part of. It was really good. It was well performed. That said, from my point of view, I didn't find it hugely memorable. I liked it, but it didn't make as much of an impression on me as some of the other songs did.
I think that's exactly what it is. I can only echo what you're saying, because I think in a different year it could have probably done better, but it was just a very competitive year. There were lots of good, especially upbeat songs, and like just little. And I think it just drowned a little bit. 10th place is still not bad, but I think that there is just a little bit a better hook that some of the other songs had compared to Poland. I think that's what it came down to. And just a quick correction, because I didn't have the points in front of me directly. Petty and Kevin, they're pointing out Poland and Italy actually had the exact same online and jury vote. 53 online and 42 jury. So they tied exactly, which then I would assume, unless Wikipedia is inaccurate, that they're going the same way, that whoever performs first gets the nudge.
Oh, well, it'll be presumably that actually before that they'd probably go to the most 12s in the jury, then the most 10s
that
in the jury,
too.
then the
Yes.
most 8s, then the most
That's
7s.
probably what it is. Yeah. So they somehow found down the road another tiebreaker.
Yeah, or maybe total number of jury votes, like as in
Yeah.
the total number of unique juries that gave them something, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They found a way. Well done, EBU. Now let Kazakhstan into the adult contest. We'll come back to that.
Yes, that's for some reason a controversial opinion in some places, but I concur. So then first of all, Poland and Italy, in my book, you're both in 10th place. There you go. Controversial opinion. Now, so number 9 in 9th place was Ukraine, the last song of the night, getting a big boost from the televote. And I know what a lot of people are saying, and I don't care. I'm happy that Ukraine did a top 10. And to me, I think I said on Twitter earlier, it is a heavy song to end, the contest on, and a child / young teenager should not be singing about war from a first-hand experience. So it was a heavy thing, but it is, reality. And, as I said, the contest does not exist in a silo. So I can understand why people also gravitate towards that one, because it is a very, current and I'm not sure if relatable is the right word, because not everyone can relate to going through that, but understandable message, and people can connect to that message. And I think that's helped a lot as well. And I always said, even in my personal ranking videos, that even though in the studio version I was not like completely like wowed by it, but I said if this comes across emotionally live, this could do actually quite well, because that's where the power lies. It's in that, do people feel it? Do people get it? And good job, Ukraine. I'm happy for you made the top 10. I know the Jews were not quite as pleased. Gabe, what are your thoughts?
This was tied for my favorite of the night, and I voted for it. And it gave me goose. I got goosebumps in the final chorus. I thought it was really, really powerful, and really, really strong. I think the thing people need to recognize, because I know there's been some people who are like, oh, well, it's not appropriate. It's, we talked about this before, about songs that are too adult.
Mm-hmm.
The unfortunate reality is, for Ukrainian children, this is their life now. Like, for Ukrainian children, of course, the things that they're going to be singing about are not going to be, they don't have the luxury that the other kids have in this contest to sing about, the upbeat, fun things that are part of their lives and and what should be part of every child's life, right? For them, their life is this war. In Ukraine, it is essentially the only thing happening. It is the defining aspect of every element of life. And children are part of that. And that's awful, but it's the reality. And I think people need to have a little look and just realize that when they the way that they've criticized, that it's been criticized, is from a position of immense privilege. It's easy for me to sit here and say something. There's no chance of a missile landing on my house. It's a materially, we unfortunately, right, none of us have the right to pretend that nasty things do not happen in the world. That extends to children as well, unfortunately. So I thought it was a brilliant, powerful performance that rightly invokes what I imagine is her own personal experience and her family's experience. And I think she shared something very important with us. And of course, it's essential that there is no cultural blackout of Ukraine and of the Ukrainian people. So events like this and songs like this are really important. I thought it was fantastic. I was gutted it didn't do better. I thought it deserved the top 5 or even to win tonight.
I thought the 9th place was actually good. I was worried it's going to do worse, not because it deserved it, but just because based on it is not an immediate song that you would think people would gravitate towards. And I want to echo again what you said earlier, because when I was pointing out, I tend to gravitate towards more childlike. When I say childlike music, I'm more not too adultish. It's more of topics and themes that kids or teenagers may not have the experience to sing about, for the lack of a better description. And certainly when you go through what the children in Ukraine are going through, of course, that's their life experience. North Macedonia was singing about, I have my life ahead of me and all happy. It almost seemed like, I wouldn't say inappropriate, it seemed kind of weird for kids to sing that, with everything that's going on in the country. I'm not saying they don't have a life ahead of them, but it's probably not necessarily their first thought that was going on, because they don't know where they're going to be in a few years from now, where they're going to live or what they're going to do. So it makes perfect sense. So now I'm glad that it did. Even though we have, you had one of your favorites, I thought it's going to be lower. So Ukraine, job well done. And then in number 8, another surprise to some, but after watching the performance, I'm not. And that is Portugal, Nicholas, with Ano 70. I don't know how to pronounce that. But it was, if you watch my ranking again, not my favorite. I think it's pretty far down my list. Just because I don't think that the song itself in the studio version stood out to me. But when I watched it tonight, I was like, okay, that dude, he's not a dude. This is how I talk. But that dude, that kid.
He was great. I love
that
him.
dude, man. That kid, he is mad talented. That's basically what I wanted to say. And he really won me over. There was something about the song that it stood out. It felt real, and it felt like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I was just mesmerized by it. And Portugal does this thing almost the last few years where I was like, I'm not really jiving with the studio version, and then they perform it live, and I'm like, aha. And that is exactly what happened again this year. And I am glad that they took a risk and that they were not penalized for it, because I think a lot of people thought this could be a bottom 3 result or something like that. And here they are in 8th place. And good for you. Good for you, Portugal. I'm very happy, and keep doing what you're doing. I'm curious what your thoughts were on that song, Gabe.
So it's not something that's typically my cup of tea, but again, it was really unique. It really stuck out. Love a good guitar solo. I'm worried, having seen that and having seen one in Milena's performance as well, that that the UK may have accidentally started a sort of Eurovision trope for the next few years. I think we might see quite a lot of guitar solos. I thought it was really well performed, really unique voice. And actually, it's interesting that if Brazilian Portuguese does genuinely have a bit of a different kind of timbre, I guess, to Portuguese, which I found really interesting. So it was great. They deserved their top 10 result.
Just to add to that, it was very interesting. To add to that, what you were saying, because Eurova posted a tweet saying, this is the first time we're hearing a new language at Eurovision, Brazilian Portuguese, and people are like, it's the same language. It's not a different. It's just a different dialect, basically. So it was just funny when they said that. People were like, I don't think that's really accurate. But go ahead.
But yeah, that's it. Like, I just think it was. I actually kind of prefer the sound of Brazilian Portuguese to Portuguese. I think it lends itself more readily to the kind of stuff that does well in Eurovision. Not to say that Portuguese. I mean, Amar Polish Deutsch is a perfect example. Like, there's some beautiful music in Portuguese, but I prefer the sound of Brazilian Portuguese.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of people feel that.
Portuguese people are probably going to hate me for saying that, because
it's still the same language. Then in 7th place is the opening number, the Netherlands, Luna La Festa, and I was unhappy to see the juries putting it so far at the bottom. I can only imagine that she must have done less good in the jury show for that to happen, because then the televoters came in and were like, not under our watch. And they gave it a lot of points in catapulting the Netherlands higher up. I go back to this thing where I'm just like, I feel this one is the right song and it's just exactly the perfect opening number, the perfect energy. I loved it to bits. And I don't know what happened there with the juries. Maybe they just really didn't like it. I don't know. But I'm glad that the televoters fixed a little bit on that one. So Netherlands, I know you probably were hoping for more, but I thought it would be a pretty short top 5, and unfortunately that did not happen.
So I think you're about in the right place with that. I think it was a great. I think it was an ideal song to open the show with. Firstly, I think it was a really good choice in that sense. But I think as the show goes on, I did find myself slightly not forgetting it, but maybe putting it to one side. There were things that kept. I mean, this is the problem with going earlier in the show, right? Like, things kept being like, oh well, I preferred this element of this, I preferred this element of this. And also, as someone mentioned in the chat, the one thing I did remember was the technical difficulties right at the start. I just think we should say well done that she sort of stayed focused, because it must have been a bit weird. She would have just been standing on stage waiting that extra sort of 20-30 seconds. And that is nerve-wracking. So well done to her for doing that.
Yeah, I agree. So then next up in the ranking in 6th place is Spain. And I believe, I have to get the numbers, Spain did really, really well in the televote, if I'm not mistaken. Certainly helped them a little bit. Second, right? Yeah, I was going to say it was either 2nd or 3rd. The Wikipedia numbers seem to be off, because it said they only got 47 points from the online vote. That doesn't sound right. Oh no, I'm looking at the prior year. I'm looking at 22. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, somebody highlighted Armenia as the winner. That's not right either. They're throwing me. Somebody's not happy with the winner. Anyway, so they came 2nd with the televote and lower with the jury vote. It was not enough. I will say, I think 6th place is exactly where I had them in my ranking as well. So I am satisfied. But I remember watching it and I was like, this is visually stunning and entertaining. It's like one of those, like, I just enjoying this so much. And I think that's what people gravitate towards it. And it felt like, something that Spain would send. And he was so energetic. He got the audience going. And I think that really translated well on TV. Sometimes it can come across as awkward, but I did not feel that way. So that is certainly something. And this is the thing with Spain. They know how to wow the televote because, oh yeah, Kevin is talking in the chat as well, has placed second in the online vote in 3 of the last 4 juniors. That's exactly what I was just about to say. That is exactly what they certainly outperform often the jury vote. So it just comes down for them to find the right mix. But I thought this was another well-executed performance, and I thought that I would have been totally fine with a Spain top 5. And second place, again, a big surprise to me in the televote, but maybe not, considering, the track record. What do you think, Gabe?
I mean, firstly, I just want to say to Hugo in chat, calm down. It's a kids singing competition. Just calm down. Drop the conspiracies. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it, but
apparently the EBU has admitted they deleted millions of votes. That's not true. That didn't happen. That's literally just not a thing. You've made that up. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, folks. Anyway, I think I will say it's a good song. I really enjoyed it. I thought the cool thing they did with the kind of Just Dance style staging, the way they made the stage look more full in the chorus with like the sort of the hologram things, that was really cool. I really, really liked that. This is one of my favorite Spanish entries. I think part of the reason why Spain does so well with the televote is they do have particularly committed fans. And committed fans can influence things. It's the same way, especially under the old system, Poland did brilliantly because there was a similar kind of thing going on. That said, all those songs would have done well in the televote anyway, even without that. I think people need to, to be honest, I can't believe I'm saying this, lay off the juries a bit. Firstly, half the juries are kids. Yeah. And they don't have the same music taste as you people on the internet. I'm going to presume if you're here, then you're probably too old to participate in this contest for the most part. It was sometimes songs just get forgotten or get mixed up with the juries. We were talking about the amount of up-tempo songs. It's gonna happen. You don't know what the breakdown is like. It might be that Spain missed out on points, but only just in a lot of juries. And that does happen. You see a lot of countries where you look through the jury scores and they've got tons of 12th places in the adult contest. Obviously, you end up with nothing as a result, but it does happen. But yeah, let's just remember it's a kids contest, guys.
And your time will come.
Take it too seriously.
Yeah, you are on the right path. You do well almost every single at junior. And just think of Italy in the adult version. They've been doing well, but it took them 10 years from their return to actually win it. Winning is exceptionally difficult. Yes, you can say France now won 2 or 3 years, but even that, it took them a few years to get to that point. And Spain, as long as you keep going, you will do well. And this 6th place is still a fantastic outcome in my book. Speaking of fantastic outcome, Gabe, United Kingdom top 5, and as we pointed out at the beginning, the UK won the online /televote, the online vote. Did you take a screenshot?
I think it's pretty sure I've seen it going around on Twitter of that screenshot, and also when we were briefly top of the leaderboard during the voting process. This, in my opinion, like I said when we were opening, is a massive triumph for the BBC, who took the shittest possible circumstances this week. I mean, they literally, it got to the point they were like, okay, we're going to teach the backing singers to sing in a day. And they did it. And it was really well done. They clearly realized a few days ago, Freya's really ill. She can get about a minute of singing out maximum. So we need to do everything we can to maximize that minute and just do the bits she can do and not have her, because it was clear, obviously, she wouldn't have been able to do the high notes, right?
Yeah.
And the way they skirted around that was excellent. If she'd been fully fit, we would have done even better. But this is already just a brilliant result. I'm so happy for her. Really pleased for the UK. I hope this means we stick around and do it again next year too.
Oh yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, are you kidding me? Especially the win, and I agree that probably if there weren't the vocal issues, I could see them doing a whole lot better in the jury as well. She didn't do terrible. She did great in the jury. It's just the point difference in the televote was insignificant. So it
Yeah.
just wasn't enough to really catch up to it. We're talking about just like a handful of points, I think, so that just wasn't enough to make a major difference. I don't know. Also, I could be wrong. It's just my guessing here. It is possible that maybe some of the juries felt this song too adultish, because I always talk about this is about friendship. Your kind should come with a warning. I lose my head over. You're not fooling most people. You're not singing about relationship. So that was always my biggest hiccup, me personally, about this song. That's what I'm talking about. It seems a little bit awkward to me, that part. That's why I always had a hard time putting it at the top of my list. That being said, the performer, she performed like she wasn't sick. Besides the singing part here, they were so effective in covering up the limitation that they were dealing with through the performance that there's a reason why she did so well. And I have no doubt in my mind that the UK will be back. If they decide, you know what, we're good, then no. There are, as I said earlier in the beginning as well, I am still to a certain extent worried that Sam Ryder was a fluke and not a trend, right? They're just going to do well and then they're going to fade again.
Go back to our old ways.
Yes. Germany had like a good run in the early 2010s and they peaked again in 2018 and then like, oh, we suck. So I'm worried that the UK could end up in the same kind of position. But after this one here, I'm getting a little bit more confident that the light bulb went off and they found something there and they know who to work with and who gets it. And kind of like what the Netherlands did starting 2013, because they sucked for like over a decade basically at the contest, if you recall. And then all of a sudden,
shout out to the toppers. Those were the days.
I have so many thoughts about the toppers, but that's not why we're here. Point difference between the first and fifth place, Kevin is pointing out in the chat. Between fifth and the jury 66 and online 10, and that is the difference, because the online vote this time around was so close. And I think that is almost unique, because in previous years I think there was bigger differences between the winners and the ones that and usually it's the opposite, right? Usually we see at least the adult version in particular that the juries are a little bit more even keel, and then the televote has like these 3 or 4 songs that just suck up all the points, and then you end up with 4 0 points in the televote. This time around it was a little different here.
Yeah, can I just say, by the way, and this is absolutely a call out post, but this has been on my mind all afternoon. I just want to say this is where I'm going to give out my award for the worst take of the year that I saw on Twitter from an unnamed user, because you don't deserve any promotion. Where somebody was saying, "Oh, I don't like the UK because I don't like Freya's attitude. She's 13. They're kids."
What attitude? I don't even get that.
Like, what attitude? It's like, to quote the great Demi Lovato, "Get a job. Stay away from her."
Oh,
just have better opinions. They're kids. You can't be like, "Oh, I don't like this kid's attitude." They're a child, a literal child.
That's a very odd take to me as well. So yeah, I don't even know what that means. How did she just seemed to have fun. She seemed like a pro, like she knows what she's doing. That's all. So if they're like some professionalism considered as attitude, then I guess don't. Yeah, no, I agree with it. So anyways, then moving on to the top 4, and I am over the moon, and I want to go first on this one with Ireland. It's in 4th place with in junior, and I already mentally prepared myself. I already had my pitchfork ready over here and to go after people, because they've sent some good songs at junior and they flop. Banshee, I will always defend until the cows come home. And then now they did it. 4th
finally
is wonderful, and rightfully so. And I almost thought that the points were not enough with the televoters, but I knew that this would be more potential jury magnet than televoters. But even there, she did quite well. So combined, it is absolutely a deserved position. To me, definitely by far the strongest ballad of the night. And she sounded amazing, and she was so adorable, and it's just exactly what they need to do at the adult version. Ireland has proven to us that there is no excuse. Like, it's no like kind of what the UK has been accused, like, you can do it. You need to just come up with the right thing. And here you did. And I actually was hoping for a top 3, but I know the competition was stiff. But I'm over the moon for Ireland. Much, much love. Well deserved. Well deserved. It was one of my favorites from the get-go. And yes, that's all I can say.
See, Matt, you have spoken only facts and logic and correctness in everything that you have said.
Yeah.
I was rooting, especially knowing that she'd been in as well. You know, this is what was one of my favorites all along, but I was rooting so hard for her, and I'm so glad it went well. Like, I was so invested in her doing well. Like, when that one note didn't happen at the end of the bridge, I literally went, no! Like, you know, like a movie. But
I didn't even know. I forgot about it.
Because she smashed the final question. Then it was almost like she'd gone, no fucking way am I gonna, you know, let this go wrong. Like, and then she smashed the final chorus. Absolutely, you know, blew us all away. So honestly, I think she deserved even better. She deserved even better than 4th. As brilliant as a result as it is, for me, I would have loved for this to have won the whole thing. What a result that would have been. And to Ireland, please send a song in Irish to Eurovision. Everyone needs that. You know, there is so much, I think, you know, because there is this kind of, like, there is so much to be found in the kind of, like, cultural sort of, what's the word? Like, the tapestry of Irish culture that I think we don't see at Eurovision. And that language is one of them. Please send a song in Irish. It will be
Gabe,
brilliant.
you cannot do well at the contest. I think the last years have proven you cannot do well at the contest unless you sing in English.
Oh, yeah, that is true, to be fair.
Look at the winners recently, and then the other songs that end up at the top. It has to be English.
Yeah.
That's sarcasm.
Yeah, I mean, personally, you know, I have to say I'm really glad that that Kalish and Måneskin only ever sing in English, because they'd never get anywhere otherwise, would they?
I know, with that Italian, and then what's next? You know, a song in French comes second, and then
I know, right? We got
and then
Italian.
another French in third. It's no. So seriously though. Anyways, yes. So the song that came in third place is Georgia, and I just want to say real quick on Georgia, did really well with the juries, and I don't know if flopped with the televote, but I got a lot of CRAP when I put Georgia in 12th place in my ranking initially, saying you are this is objectively wrong. What does that even mean? And I'm not like saying, see, I told you so. I just thought, well, it's one of the songs that's just immensely popular and that goes right past me. Like Italy last year, the winning song was kind of like the same way. Everyone loved it. I'm like, I don't get it. And it still won. This year I felt the same. Like, Georgia, it's a nice song. I like it. It just didn't stick with me. So I'm like, but people love it, so there must be something to it. So in the end, I was surprised to see it actually not do well, because there was such a hype and such an excitement about it in the fan base or whatever, that I'm surprised to see the juries actually won, saving it from a bad result. So, but I must say, my initial confusion was, of course, people saying these are traditional outfits, but when you don't know them, it seemed almost like, what are they wearing? But then somebody explained to me, like, okay, that makes sense. But a lot of people may have not, they don't know the context there, or like what these outfits are. So maybe they were equally confused. I don't know. But it's still a third place. A third place is third place. Again, the televote just really was almost less impactful this time around. Gabe, what were you thinking when the?
I thought it was really cool, really unique. I think the whole performance, which was really great to see. Like I said, I like it when countries sort of bring that sort of cultural element, you know, to Eurovision, sort of saying, this is like, you know, this is our background, this is our, you know, and so I really liked that. I think the thing that served it well with the juries was how distinct it was. And I think that same thing is also what hurt it with the televote. So I think a lot of people watching, and this is a shame. Let me be clear. This is not a criticism of it, of how uniquely staged and the way and the dress and everything else was. I thought that was brilliant. I just think sometimes people don't appreciate that kind of thing as much as they should. I think that's what happened with the televote here. It's, you know, which is a shame, but they still got the good recognition which they did deserve from the juries, at least.
Yes. Yes, and the third place is great. Again, the televotes, again, I wouldn't say was irrelevant because clearly they're important, the votes, but they just had very little impact in terms of like the final outcome, which is very interesting. So maybe people, the fans of the song in particular, will maybe not be as harsh on the juries as people always tend to be, because they saved Georgia for sure, the one that was, I think, crowned the winner of the fan base. And so it's just very interesting. Then in second place, we have the host and last year's winner, Armenia, which by a lot of people, another potential contender to win it all. And clearly they almost did. I mean, they were like a little bit behind, but overall, a fantastic result with the juries and with the televote still good. But again, they got like 70 points or something like that. Do you remember the top of your head?
Yeah, something like that, which is, in the upper part of it.
But was it surprising? I thought when it came down, when they were getting ready to announce the points by Armenia, I thought they could get 100 points. I thought this is great running order, very popular. I thought it was very well staged. And even to me, I had Armenia just like it's a good song, but not like somewhere in the middle for me. I really thought it really worked well live. And I was like, oh, now I get it. This could win if it really, people hype it. And I get it why it worked live, but it wasn't enough again with the televote. Were you surprised by that as well?
I thought that Armenia would win the televote, and I really did. It was a really polished performance. It's a little suspicious that I'm going to be a bit conspiratorial for a second. All of the camera shots and stuff for Armenia was so much better than everyone else's.
Really?
I think somebody there's been a few winks to the production team, I think, at some stage. But it was great. I thought it was a great performance, really strong. Having seen the show, I thought it was going to win.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
Baco, add to that real quick before you finish your thought. Baco, he said, he thought Armenia would win, especially after Georgia didn't do well in the televote. Were you thinking, okay, Armenia's getting all the points? Were you thinking that as well?
I was waiting for there to be a big score somewhere, and it never came.
Yeah.
Every year you get one song that really kicks it out the park, but that didn't really happen this year. I think part of it is the system, and it's difficult. I think we need to have another look at it, because making it so you can only vote for one country does leave it open to the kind of abuse I was talking about before that Spain and Poland were particularly known for.
Mm-hmm.
But the system as it is now makes it so difficult for the televote to make a substantive difference to the outcome.
Yeah.
Because it squashes all of the scores together. And if people, you'll get people who only want to vote for one and they'll just pick two other random ones, things like that. The fact that everything was between 40 and 80, or something, there might have been one just below, it shows that the system is not working properly, I think. At the same time, I do like the fact, obviously, because it's a kids thing, that it means that everyone gets a decent number of points, which is also, I think, a consideration you have to make. It's not all about the competition.
Yeah, that is definitely true. And it's a very good observation. I wonder if the EBU will take that into account when reevaluating things for the upcoming contest. Because again, UK won the televote, and they're still only finished in 5th place, which is still a great result. I'm not poo-pooing on that. But you would think that there would be, if we had more of a system like the adult version, that they would have had a little bit more of an impact. So I don't know. We will never know, because these are just some speculations we have here. But I think these are fair assumptions to make in my book. And before we go into
one thing I'm going to say, Aknix, you already got a timeout once for being so negative. If you don't stop it, I'm just going to ban you. So I suggest put your smiley face on or get out. Cheers. Sorry, go on, Matt.
Yeah, no, I don't see any questions except for the @ESC United. So if you want to talk to us, say @ESC United, so we know you're talking to us. But yeah, be nice in the chat. Otherwise, you've got to go. Because we're all just here to celebrate music, and there's never a moment where everyone agrees on the winner, on the last place or whatever, and that's the beauty about it. And the following year it'll be different. So the winner of the contest, as we talked about, is France. A lot of people were surprised, and I was surprised it won. only because I saw the comments online and in the polls. It was not even like in the top 10, I think, with the fans. And I said, because I think I should let you go first, actually, Gabe, because I think we have different opinions on that. I think we should end on a high note. So why don't you? What are your thoughts about France?
I agree. Personally, it was a surprise for me that it did so well. This was not among one of the ones I preferred this time around. I gotta say, and so I was I was surprised it won. And at the end, I was rooting out of the three that looked like they could win. At the end, I was rooting for Armenia over this. Nevertheless, it's happened, and we're all off back to France next year. What I will say is, yeah, I think it did catch me by surprise. I think people in the fandom were, I would say, justified to not put it among the favorites, because I think everyone was, even after seeing the performances, I think we were shocked to see how well it did. Yes, except for you. You really are quite the visionary, Matt.
I know. Well, it's kind of funny because my top two pre-contest, the North Macedonia and France, two songs that no one really talked about. One flopped big time, the other one won. So it's like the two extremes in my top.
The 50% hit rate.
I know, right? I'll take it. So that's what I'm saying. It could go either way. But in France, I mean, I would say this: France, to me, when I listen to it, I'm like, I don't know why every single year I love the French song. I think for the last 4 years before this one, France was my number one. And then this year was my number two. And I'm like, I don't know. Am I biased? But for some reason, France tends to nail Junior. And I just loved what they did with the song. His voice was just, I said that France probably would win the jury vote. I almost was confident about that one. I did think that the genre and the style of the song could potentially, I wouldn't say spell doom for them in the televote, but certainly do less well. But even they did really, really well in the televote. They were like, how many points? 78? 72?
And they only needed 48 to win.
Yeah.
So they had a cushion as well.
Yeah, so they were high up there as well. So it's certainly that, but I don't know which rank they had in the online vote. But the point is, we're talking about a handful of points difference in the thing. So it was still very popular with the televote as well. And I think that where the surprise comes in for a lot of people, that it did so well in the online vote as well. People genuinely really, really liked the song. And I was surprised, but not shocked. Maybe it was like a pleasant surprise because I thought it was very well deserved. I loved the song. I loved the vibe. And France gets it right every single year, and I think it is well deserved. And I see a lot of comments in the chat and on Twitter and everywhere else, like, no, I'm like, that's just how the cookie crumbles. Sometimes your favorite or like songs that you expect to do well don't, and vice versa. And this time around, an underdog, even though France is usually not considered an underdog, a junior, with this song they kind of were. And so that's just how the cookie crumbles. And regardless of what you may think about the song, you personally don't care for it. I think we can all say, just be happy for them. All these kids show up there, and even put the fact aside, these are kids. Just think of it even as the adult version. People go out there, put their music forward because they believe in it. They think they have a good song and they want to put it forward for the masses, and hopefully you enjoy it. And you may or may not care for it, but I don't understand why people get so upset over for your favorite not to win, or a song that you didn't have at your top actually end up victorious. I just don't understand it. I got a lot of slack. People kind of laughing in my face when Italy won last year. I'm like, haha, see, like, it's great. I'm happy for Italy. Yeah, I'm not listening to the song, but why would I be upset that Italy won when so many people love the song? And I think people just need to take a step back. It is a competition, but it's mostly a celebration. So I'm very happy for France, and I think that's how I want to summarize it. Anything you want to add, Gabe, before we jump into the general Q&A?
Well, I have to say, after being scarred by what happened yesterday, that does weigh heavy on my mind.
What happened yesterday?
So England lost to France in the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that part.
So let me tell. So France, you can have this. You can have this, but you can't have the World Cup. You've made your choice now. You cannot have both Junior Eurovision and the World Cup a week apart. So now I'm afraid you have to lose to Morocco on Wednesday night. It's just how it is.
Is that how it is?
Yeah,
For me, it was funny because I
is.
watched the France-England game at an Italian deli. I'm like, this is kind of weird being at an Italian deli watching the almost at the UK. It's not the UK, England and France play. Anyway, so a lot of people, probably Eurovision fans, are like, what is a World Cup?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
We already have one of those. It's called Eurovision.
Yeah. So any questions, by the way, that you have now in general, any songs to show, shoot them at us at ESC United in the chat, whatever it may be. There was, by the way, I had issues. My tweet actually got like, let me see where it's at now, because a lot of people, myself included, had issues. I got over 100 people already mentioning it. Couldn't vote. With issues voting. Did you have any issues, Gabe?
You just had to wait on the page for a minute.
Well, I got error messages. Several people got error messages.
I think it did. You get it. Persistence was required, but it's a massive event. These kinds of things happen sometimes. Like,
it's a learning experience. That's certainly not something that they can say, what happens, deal with it. It's certainly like, okay, yeah, something needs to get fixed on that one. They need to certainly prove upon that. But as you said, it's also not the end of the world. I was getting not that nervous. I'm only one vote. I had like 1 minute left. I think it was like, I saw the clock already ticking. Oh, I guess I cannot get to vote. All of a sudden it came up. I'm like, and then I got to vote. So, Gabe, are you comfortable sharing the 3 countries you voted for?
Yes. I tweeted it before. Okay. In fact, it was the UK, Ireland, and Ukraine for me.
Okay.
Never thought I'd be saying that.
I will tell you the ones I voted for as well, but it doesn't mean that I don't, I love everyone, but I voted for Ireland, North Macedonia, and France. So it's all over the map, my outcome. So I'm just
going to focus on Ireland. I'm just going to focus on Ireland, and
yes,
then yeah.
So let's take a look here. Some of the question. Vaco saying France is not the perfect winner. We can say that, but he did deserve it. The French delegation put everything on him and did believe in their entry when they were last in everyone's ranking. I don't know if they were last. I mean, I think it was that bad, but besides, even like to make a greater point here, Gabe, do you think, it's not even like subjective, it's almost objective, France is doing something right? Because ever since 2017, 18, I forgot what year, they always are in the top 4 at the contest, basically. So is there anything?
Get it.
Yeah.
They just get it. I mean, look at like J'imagine, Bim Bam Toi. Yeah. Which is insanely catchy still.
Yes.
I wish I hadn't thought about it because now it's stuck in my head again.
Yeah. That's what they're good at. This melodies that are, I think France, to me, they do a good job with keeping songs very like, okay, this is Junior, but it's probably not as you mentioned earlier, condescending. You know what I mean? It still feels like this is catchy music that is fun, but it is Junior appropriate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like it's clearly geared towards a younger audience, and they do that very effectively. Barbara Pravi has Eurovision like in a chokehold at this point. Like that woman can do no wrong. I think they just need to. I don't know. I don't actually know if she wrote the song this year. If someone in chat could tell me. But she just, it was like, cause she wrote Bim Bam Toi, didn't she? She wrote J'imagine, obviously, voila. Like the French should just get Barbara Pravi to do it. And
for the next few years, until
and you'll win everything.
Until you have like a backup or replacement, that's for sure. And
she did write it. She did write it. I knew it. There we go.
Yeah. Oh, doesn't surprise me. Yes, she certainly gets it. When was the last time a boy won, like a male singer at Junior? Because I've been watching it since 2018 or 19. It's always been female singers.
I'm Googling it now.
So anyway, while you're looking that up, next. Oh, somebody said it in the chat already. 2014.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So that's why I was like, okay, that is interesting. what are your thoughts on having 2 rounds of online voting, the pre-show and during the show one? So, in case those of you don't know, you actually have the ability to vote before the show starts. You can watch after the rehearsal clips are online. They had it like up for how long? Do you know how long the voting
I'm
window
not sure. It
was?
was open. I think it was like open over the weekend, like for a few days.
Okay, so that long? I thought it was only 24 hours, so it was open for a few days. Okay. And then, of course, then they closed it, and then you could vote again after the show. I'm not a junior expert in terms of like follow-up. I don't assume they release the pre and show votes separately, right? We don't get any breakout.
Yeah, that aside, I think I don't like it. I don't
Yeah.
like that you can vote before having even seen the live performance. All that does is encourage the kinds of gaming of the system that I was talking about before.
Yeah.
And I think it's wrong, and they shouldn't
Yeah.
let it. They shouldn't do it.
Exactly. No, I don't like that. I think they should stop that. I know it's to create hype and interest and people getting involved. I understand that, but there must be a different way to get that accomplished. That's not the way because, yeah. And again, maybe it does make a big difference because those votes are insignificant, but I always say it's always a perception that's more important than anything. And the perception then is it feels unfair. So, yeah. Let's see here. How good was the 20-year anniversary interval? Could have watched an extended version of it, to be honest. Just to summarize, they brought back a bunch of winners, like previous winners over the past 20 years, who got to perform for like 10 seconds. I will say, I'm like, wow, they have to pay them a little bit to come out, just to perform for 10 seconds or 15 seconds, everyone. I understand there's limited time. So I really liked the concept. I almost felt like those clips were too short. I wish all they had a little bit more time to perform the song, especially I especially felt like Destiny. No, not myself. And that's her. And it felt like too short almost, but I love the concept. I love the idea, and it's a proper celebration of 20 years of Junior. Oh my god, which is weird. I wonder how old the first winner is now.
It's like isn't he? They'll be in their early 30s, surely.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, probably bare minimum 29, but he must be in his early 30s now. What do you think about that interval act?
I thought it was good. Like I say, you needed more singing. I thought it was funny. It was the really awkward bit in the middle where there was 3 years where it was like Russia and Belarus.
Yes.
And everyone's there just sort of like
they're all grown up now.
Through this. Let's grimace through this and just try and forget it happened.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was good. I would like to have seen more actual singing. There was a lot of lip syncing going on in that. Like in general, and it was the same with Milena, who was clearly lip syncing in her separate performance. She had a guitar. I'm pretty sure I had no strings. Yeah. So I would have liked to see a bit more live vocals in general in the interval acts. But and it was fun. They should have been more. I would have just stuck Destiny on a stage and got her to sing Not My Soul Again. No offense to all the other winners, but I will probably forever be of the opinion that Destiny is just by far the most outrageously talented singer to have come out of this competition. Like, I would love to hear her hit that big opening to Not My Soul now that her voice has matured so much.
Yeah. No, absolutely, for sure. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm not, but I live in LA basically, and I'm surrounded by all these musicians and artists, right? And I showed them like clips, and they saw last year's coming. They're like, "Why isn't Destiny like a superstar? Like, she's one of the most talented people that they have ever heard and seen." So they were all mighty impressed. Like, she stands out, certainly from a musician artistic perspective. So I completely agree, and a lot of people feel that way as well. Kevin brings up a good point, or like maybe not, but a good point to discuss it, I should say. Overall, the more populous countries seem to get more televotes overall than the less populous countries. Should allowing votes for your own country need to be adjusted at all? Just to provide more context on that, in Junior Eurovision, we don't have votes by country like you see at the adult version. It's just one combined overall televote. That's why you have people like Gabe voting for the UK. You get my point. Like, in all seriousness, it's like you can vote for your own country, and of course you can say like countries, the public, UK, Spain, Italy. I'm not saying they are, but there could be a chance that they just vote and vote and vote. And since they have more people to vote for each other, they could actually do better. Now, in the past, we had Malta has won before several times, but the vote was different back then, to be fair. So maybe we cannot use that example. So let me hand that over to you, Gabe. Is that a valid concern?
I would, to be honest, I'd ditch the online vote entirely. I think I don't like the concept. Like having it as like they're going to do with the adult version, where it's just like a single set of points. That's fine. But keep that. That's fine. We can have that. But it enables countries with large populations, like Spain. Like I keep talking about Spain and Poland.
Say UK, because then you look like say UK.
And the UK, to be fair, but I don't think the UK's level of emotional investment is quite the same.
Certainly not the junior.
And the Spanish whereas the Spanish and Polish fans really, really into it. It gives them an amount of leverage over the final result that is not right. And they've done things to stop that, and in doing that, they've basically rendered the entire thing extremely underpowered, because now it's just so difficult to carve out a lead. Via the online vote. I would make it one set of votes or scrap it entirely. Bring back televoting.
See,
just like we do in the adult contest.
I do like the idea of having, you have to vote for 3 songs, because that would prevent like I'm just going to vote for this, diaspora, whatever you want to call it. I understand that concept, but I do agree with you. I think the way it is right now, it seems a little bit unbalanced. And again, the problem is you can make a very good case. Those were the best songs of the year, right? You can easily make that case. UK, Spain, great songs. They deserve to be that high. But there's always a perception, well, they only did so well because they're so big and they have more people voting for it because you can vote for your own country, blah, blah, blah. So it's a very difficult balance, and I'm always all about optics matter. I mean, at least when it comes to, not like, people like, they're hot, but, is it like, how does it being perceived by people? And I think that is certainly a problem. And I do think that if they want to keep it that way, we need to see more data, because now we just have them take their word for it. And I do like how the EBU became, after being the opposite of transparent, more transparent in 2014 with all the jury drama that we've had. So I think we need to get something similar with the televote. Yeah, or the online vote. I keep calling it televote, but it's technically an online vote, but you get my point. So I think we need something here as well. And then at least everyone knows, and then the members of the delegations and the board, I forgot the name, what they call it right now, they can then make a decision and whether to keep it or make adjustments. I personally don't see a problem with having individual votes by country. I don't know. It has been part of the Eurovision, and I feel as it should be part of Junior as well. I understand there is always that risk that you don't want any of the kids end up with 0. That's why they gave them like a default 12 in the past, if you remember. So I'm not saying I have the perfect solution, but I don't know if this is it without proper transparency. That was a long way to just kind of agree with what you're saying, Gabe. But,
yeah, right. Is this, and again, I mean, the thing is with the EBU, I think also I think there is when it comes to results and data, they have got a bit better. I think there's a lack of transparency at the EBU about the process by which they're making decisions and the way in which those decisions are made, the justification for them. We've seen this with the press. We've seen this with changing the format, and they've got some things right. I think making it so you had the jury vote and the public vote in the adult contest is great. It's really exciting. I love it. But, for example, the way they treat fan press, where there's very little clarity on what it is they're trying to achieve. I would love to better understand both in this with the online voting and in that, the motivation for what it is they're doing, the justification for it. I don't think we see enough of that. It's all cloaked under, oh, we're just doing what we can to make everything better and more exciting. It was like, great, tell us why these changes will make that happen.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't think they're so clear about that.
No, it's not. And it is true that the EBU isn't always the most transparent when it comes to that until people, whether it's the press, the delegations, the broadcasters, they push. And one of the big pushes was, were you already watching Eurovision live in 2013, all that stuff? Right. You already watched it like dedicated back then.
Yeah.
That was a big issue, right? But the EBU just kept becoming more and more hush-hush about how the juries vote, and then the average ranking. I'm like, that means nothing. So after the push and then the drama and some of the accusations, that's when they finally made, okay, here it's every jury member's vote in detail, first to whatever. And I'm like, great. Why didn't we do that all the time? So I think here the same logic applies. Keep professionally but keep pushing for more transparency. I think that is what the press should do, the fans should do, and everyone involved, because it's only the right thing to do. That being said, I'm not taking anything away from the winner, because number one, I'm a big fan, and number two, I think it's also well-deserved, even in previous years when I wasn't a fan of the song. So you don't want to just say it's because, we don't like the winner. We're saying that. I think you can avoid any of these accusations about the jury this, the televote that, by being transparent. And sometimes it doesn't look good. Something like, oh, okay, maybe that does seem unfair. Then at least you can fix it. But then at least people know you are showing us the cards and what's happening, and then make adjustments.
No, precisely. I think you're just right.
Yeah. Can we have a shout out for Freya Syke to top the online vote despite her being unwell is incredible, Connor. Hey, Connor. I think we did a few shout outs, but Gabe, since you're from the UK, do another shout out.
Shout out to Freya Syke, shout out to the BBC team, shout out to everyone who made it possible. They did, like I said before, the way they did it was really smart, and the way they rallied around her when she was clearly not feeling good, including today, she was definitely still unwell, was really nice to see. So well done, team. Very proud. Good job.
Yes. Indeed. Okay, so just a couple more questions here. But Connor, since I just talked to you, the main difference between Junior and ESC is that the online vote is done on a proportional basis, hence why the UK only got 80 points from the public vote. That is true, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. However, I think, and I will have to go back, I'm going back right now. Last year, the online vote was a lot more... there were some clear winners. Armenia got 109 and Poland got 102, but then Portugal was already down to 92, and then France dropped to 67 points. So there, the televote made a significant impact. So this year was just a lot different. It seems almost like a Eurovision 2011. You remember, well, like the votes were like so close, and then Azerbaijan wins all of a sudden, and it was just one of those. Yeah. And I'm not comparing now the winner of the I'm just saying this stuff can happen. And honestly, sometimes there are just songs that it doesn't equal. There's not like a clear runaway winner. That stuff like that happens, and it can easily and will happen at even the adult version at some point in time again. That's just how it sometimes will go. Sometimes the televoters, more often than not, do have like clear favorites. That has been shown over and over again. Even put Ukraine last, due to certain, maybe aside, Italy in 21, and then even France not too far behind and all that stuff. And 2019 was Norway, and then but then sometimes again 2011 was really close. In 2015 we had like 4 songs sucking up most of the points, getting over 200, and everybody else got nothing. And it's just sometimes how it goes.
And I mean, you had 2011 is one of the worst crimes against humanity that has ever taken place. That result, genuinely, to this day, it fills me with horror thinking about the fact that won Eurovision. Yeah, it's like genuinely. I think if it was sent now, I think it would struggle to qualify. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, it was a bad year overall. I mean, a lot of people would agree. It was not a great Eurovision in terms of song quality, but then it was just an odd thing. And I remember that was the first Eurovision I attended in person. Right, I was there in the arena during the live show. I was like, if Germany ever wins in my lifetime, I was then saying, which I never thought was going to happen, I have to go. So I did go, and I was in the audience, and then Azerbaijan won, and Germans say whatever you want about them at Eurovision, but they tend to be polite people, right? So they were, I guess, we're clapping. Good job. Everyone was very confused in the arena. Everyone was like, "Yay!"
How has this happened?
Yeah, it was disbelief a little. Like no one thought it was going to win, which is also one of the reasons people are saying, again, perception, because it was not very transparent, that this was not a fair vote of juries and, buying votes, all that stuff. And that's why a couple of years later, we finally got the more transparent setup. But again, I keep going back. I sound like a broken record. Perception is reality to a lot of people.
I won't go down the Azerbaijan cheating rabbit hole because it's very deep and don't get me started.
Yeah, and that is certainly no. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that doesn't want to, play hush hush about certain things. But we certainly have another matter to live stream to go over that one because right now it's about Junior. So let's talk about next year, Junior, real quick. Not Paris, right? You want to go somewhere else?
Nah, I think we should go to
Nice.
Nice, Lyon, Toulouse. There's loads of great cities in France. They just can't do it in Paris again. Someone made a really good point. They've got the Olympics in Paris in 2024. I mean, of all the cities in the world that doesn't need another international event, it's Paris. I think the argument is the same reason for why London shouldn't be hosting Eurovision, and why I was glad that it went somewhere else in the UK. It's one of those things. These cities, they stand alone. They don't need it. But other places, like I say, lots of puns can be made if it's in Nice. So I like puns. So that gets my vote. Yeah, Nice would be nice.
Puns, they're hit or miss for me. I'm usually anti-pun. But every once in a while, I squeeze one in as well, but I'm really bad at them. So then I cringe at my own puns. So, but hey, if they ask for it, I guess, so you kind of have to embrace it. So yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, I do remember the show in France was really great. So I expect really good things as well. And yeah, let me see. And one more question. Personally, I like the concept of the postcards, but for me, multiple kits seemed for me to be quite awkward. And also the scenery transitions were quite weird, like from the cliffs to the arena. Well, first of all, a lot of these kits, they are at that awkward stage. I mean, I was awkward from age 7 to 14, probably. So
I still am.
Yeah, that's true. So I was always awkward. So I get it. Kids are supposed to be awkward to a certain extent, right? But everyone is a born performer. They're supposed to there to have fun and enjoy themselves, and that's basically how I feel about it. All right, so that was gosh, I can't believe it. Any other thoughts, Gabe, before we call it a day?
I think I just want to say again I want to say it to the Irish and to the British. We're finally starting to do things right. Just keep doing them. We're so nearly there now. We're getting there. We're understanding how the contest works at last. Keep doing this kind of thing. Let's hopefully, finally see some good results, especially for Ireland in Europe. God knows Ireland's overdue a good result. But yeah, just well done to all of the participants as well, who all did great. And it's a big thing to get on a stage at that age and sing in front of that many people.
Exactly. And I know that they're all very protective of those kids, and rightfully so, because I've seen lately a lot of negativity, especially in the online world. So they have to protect the kids at all. I get sometimes really like, I don't want to hear that. Makes me upset, so I can only imagine how children would feel if they see that sort of rhetoric. So hopefully that'll get better with as time goes on. But yeah, so great job, everyone. I'm very, very happy with the outcome. I know not everyone is, but I am. So that's all that matters in my book. Now, thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back with it next week, by the way, is Vitbeer, Ukraine's national final. So we'll be live right after the show to talk results, because we'll have our very first song of the Eurovision 2023 season. Real quick, Gabe, have you listened to the songs?
The Vidbeer songs, not yet, but I'm
okay. Well, then I was going to ask your favorite
before next week. There's that one which is doing the rounds on Twitter. Sorry, guys. I think it's really the Jerry Heil. I think is the band. That song is really mid. I'm sorry. It's fine, but like I guarantee I haven't listened to the rest, but I'm absolutely certain I'm going to find half a dozen songs in there which I prefer to that one. So that's my only thought so far.
Well, we'll see. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. All right, everyone. We off. We got to go. Talk to you later.